Welcome one and all back to Imperfect Impulses with Aaron, one of the only male crafters doing art journaling on the YouTube. I am starting with a tag that my son wanted to play with my distress inks. He just used the pouncers and pounced some colors. He did this about 2 years ago, and I hadn't had the heart to cover it up, and today I'm running out of tags, so I had the heart to do it. So I'm just using some Liquitex Basics gesso and a palette knife, and I first started spreading it on and then pounced it up just to get some texture in there. I dried it a little bit, and then a video by France Papillon inspired me to do some dragging some lines through there. So I had this cheap comb from the dollar store, and I've never used it, so I was like, might as well use it. So then I pulled out my pan pastels because I don't use these very often. They kind of intimidate me, to be honest with you, so I'm trying to get over that. So I pulled out that yellow, and I love yellow and gray together, so at first I was going to start with that, and then I ended up going into almost like an umber color, so I was like, oh, well, that's not so gray, so whatever. So, but you can see all the texture that was created from dragging that comb through there. It was really cool. So, and then I sprayed it down with SpectraFix, which is the indoor spray fixative for these. And you can see the color kind of change intensity, and they start moving around a little bit. It's kind of cool. That's because I put a lot of SpectraFix on. You normally just spray just a little bit. So this is Stays On Metallic in gold, and I put way too much ink on the ink pad because it comes with the re-inker. So I grabbed my art journal and opened it to a spread and just started spreading it on that page. That page on the right I did like 1.5 years ago, and I haven't touched it because I just like where it's at. I love the colors. It just makes me so happy. But yeah, I haven't touched it. So, alright, so I am using, this is a stamp by I think Fiskars. It's a Teresa Collins stamp. And I'm just adding some of that gold stays on, and now because of all the texture and the fact that the stamp pad or the ink pad is so oozy, you really can't see the words, which is fine by me. So it just adds some little gold specks in the background. Now this is Distress Paint in brushed pewter, and I'm using it on some of that drywall mesh tape. It's called cement board. You can find it at Lowe's. And it's already a gray color, but I wanted to give it a slight sheen because I've been really loving mixed metals lately, like copper and bronze and gold. And so I sprayed down that little pattern that was there and then just kind of dipped the tag into it. It didn't do very much, but I figured what the heck, it was there, might as well try to use it. And I'm sorry I did not cut out that drying footage. So you can see the difference. It's just a little bit shinier. And now I think out of the frame, yeah, I'm cutting the drywall tape, and I'm just adding it in a couple random areas on the tag. I did this entire tag in one night, which is normally not how I craft. I craft in like, I'll do an hour here, or 30 minutes there, or 10 minutes there, and so it was nice to be able to do start to finish one whole project. I was inspired, I had the time, that never happens. So a little bit more distress paint with a very small amount of water, and then I got a really wet fan brush and just flicked it on there. I like the fan brush for doing spatters. It gets the best results for me. That's what I found. Or toothbrushes work too, but you get really messy doing that. Now, because this is the Spellbinder Sprightly Sprockets by Donna Salazar, I love these dies. I think I have the Tim Holtz gear dies as well, but I love these ones. They're so intricate and pretty. So, what was I going to say? I was talking about the splatters. Oh, because the distress paint was on the pan pastels, it kind of tinted it, the pan pastels did, so it's not a bright white, which is fine. So I die cut these gears using watercolor paper because I knew I was going to abuse them with various products. And so I'm not going to show you me popping all of them out, but I just used a little craft pick and started popping them out. So now they're all popped out, and this is Artist Loft paint in old gold. And I'm just going to do one quick wash of color over this. And this is watercolor paper, so that's why it can withstand a lot of moisture. So they're not gessoed or anything. So I did one layer of gold, I dried it off camera, and then came back and did another layer of gold. The Artist Loft metallic paints aren't overly opaque. They're kind of transparent. So, but I wanted these to look kind of like metal, like old grungy metal. So that's 2 layers later, and this is Viva Crackle Paint in black. And I just went here and there, varying the thickness of the paint. Some areas it's really thick, some it's really thin. This jar is kind of old. I think I got it from a friend, and I'm thinking I need to start using it up before it goes bad, because it was kind of thick. So, but the thinner areas, I believe, got better results than the thick areas. So, I know it seems counterintuitive covering all that up, but I wanted it to have some variation and make it look old. And so now I'm taking that StazOn gold again, and I am just using a little piece of felt, and I am covering the whole thing with it, with the StazOn. And what that's doing is it's kind of blending the 2 colors together and just making the gears just look old and just worn. And I've always loved steampunk. I've loved steampunk for a couple years, and I haven't done much steampunk lately, but I am starting to get kind of back into it again. If you follow me on Pinterest, I think I'm Imperfect Aaron. Maybe that's Twitter. Imperfect Imp. Yeah, that's it. Imperfect Imp on Pinterest. I have a whole board dedicated to steampunk. I just love the aesthetic, the whole Victorian vibe with, the kind of faux sci-fi feel. It's just really cool. So I wanted to do a lot more steampunk on this, and it just ended up with the gears. So, how steampunk it really is, you decide. But so I hot glued those gears down. And now I'm using a Tim Holtz stamp. I just mounted it to the back of this little foam stamp. It's the birds. And I inked it in archival ink. I did it at the top and bottom. Now for this part, I am doing a Donna Downey technique. I love Donna Downey. And I am stamping with Versamark. I know you can't tell that's Versamark ink pad because it's so gross, but I promise it is. So I'm stamping the phrase steampunk and then madness. I'm doing them separately. So right now I'm doing steampunk, and then I'm using my pan pastels in that same yellow color, and when you go over it, the Versamark picks up the color a little bit differently than the rest of the paper. So it's really cool. It gives you this awesome look. Then I just decided to cut those out into banners. So if you see more steampunk coming up from me, sorry about it. I'm really loving the whole steampunk thing right now, so love to make a pair of goggles. I don't know why, but I do. I want to make a pair of steampunk goggles. So then I decided these look way, way too pristine, so I started bending them up and crumpling them, and eventually I'm going to distress them a little bit. So that was a really cool technique with the Versamark. So this is, I wanted a little bit of shimmer on them, and it was Perfect Pearl spray, and it was cappuccino. And this is the Tim Holtz scratchy tool, and I'm just using it just to rough up the paper a little bit. And when it did that, it kind of pulled up the Versamark. It was probably still too wet to do that. So the letters started fading, and it was really hard to see. So I'll fix that in a minute. But I am using the Tim Holtz Distresser tool and just going right along the edges and kind of tearing it up a little bit. Then I'm going to grab my script stamp and some brushed corduroy distress ink, and I just set them right down, those little tags, and just to get a little bit of texture on there. Again, they just felt too pristine. So even at this point, they felt a little pristine. So I took the pad for my brush corduroy and then went right around the edges just to darken up the edges a little bit. That always helps. Inking the edges always helps. It always helps. I've never seen a project where I thought, oh, you should not have inked the edge. So just FYI, ink your edges. So yeah, here's where I'm like just crumpling these up and making them angry. I was going to do the watery technique where you like drag the ink pad on it and like spritz it with water, but because this is all pan pastel and Versamark, I didn't want to risk messing it up. So I just used the Distress ink pad with the foam blending tool thingy, and I just ran it right over the high points. So I know you can't see what I'm doing right now, and I'm sorry about that, but that little pencil that I'm using, that gray pencil, is an aqua monolith. It's essentially a watercolor pencil, and I just used it to trace the letters so that way it darkened them up a little bit. And since I'm doing a whole like silver and gold vibe, it worked, and I just happened to have a gray. So yeah, I'm using my Crocodile here to use gold little grommets, and at first I attached the wrong one in the wrong spot, so I had to pull it up and then hot glue one side down. But anyway, so I grommeted those on, and I made it so that they stuck out from the tag, so they kind of bubble up a little bit, which I think gives it some cool dimension since the rest of the tag's kind of flat. And now I'm using StazOn in Timber Brown just around the edges. Again, ink those edges. Man, it makes a world of difference. It pulls everything together, makes everything more polished. So then I took some raffia, some brown raffia. I've had this forever. I've been a crafter for a very long time. Didn't really get into scrapbooking and mixed media until I was an adult, but I've been a crafter forever, so I've had some stuff for a very long time. So this is a facet by Tim Holtz, and I wanted to color it up a little bit. So I grabbed my alcohol ink in Latte, and I used the gold mixative, and I inked it on the front and on the back just to give it this really cool frosted look. And I did the same with a little trinket pin. It was like a pewter color, and I wanted it to match the rest of the tag with that gold look. So, sorry about the drawing footage. And then I grabbed my StazOn again, the Timber Brown StazOn, and just put a little bit of a script stamp on there. And then this is a Tim Holtz stamp. It's a postmark stamp, and it had this little circle Paris postmark, and it fit perfectly on that facet. So I stamped that with archival ink right on the front of that facet. And now, last but not least, I'm attaching the facet to the hole in the trinket pin using that same raffia that's tied at the top. And I'm going to attach the trinket pin to the raffia at the top, and there's also a little piece of chain on the raffia. And that's it. That's the whole tag. So you're going to have some pictures with the flash and some without. I thought it was kind of hard to see some of the metallics without the flash. I normally don't use the flash. So hope you like this. When you see this, I should be in Anaheim. Unfortunately, I'm not going to CHA, but I will be hopefully meeting some people that you may know. So if that pans out, I'll take some pictures and probably post it on my blog, because I'm super excited to meet these ladies. And not to mention, my best friend lives there, so we're going to hang out and have fun. So I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.